Keara Peeples, co-founder of Peeples & Co. I help small business owners and teams attract and retain their ideal customers through strategic consulting and hands-on operations. I have 8 years of corporate experience helping businesses retain their enterprise-level customers and expand business revenue in order to hit business growth targets. Today, I work with small business owners that need help with growth marketing and client retention strategy without the hefty overhead expenses. I'm a strong believer in breaking systemic barriers and mastering one's own destiny, and I want to help you do exactly that through strategy, guidance, and execution.
Hi, my name is Regis Peeples, co-founder of Peeples & Co. I'm a poet, philosopher, and educator. I have 10 plus years of experience within academia. I provide auditing services for different curriculum-based programs. I also do curriculum development. And lastly, I can do trainings. If you have a pre-existing curriculum, even if it needs a little bit of upkeep, I can help you with that. Or if you have a pre-existing program that maybe you want to enhance or bring into modern times, I can also do updates and upkeep on those sorts of things. My goal is to make sure that whatever the process is, it not only involves multicultural aspects and inclusivity, but is also backed by science and data so that we're using best practices that are proven in the classroom and outside of the classroom.
We're excited to be here today for our very first podcast, the Peeples Exchange, where education and collaboration go hand in hand. On today's episode, we'll focus on the importance of building trust in your businesses and communities. If you're looking for best practices when it comes to building trust in your business or community, this is the podcast episode for you. Trust is at an all-time low with customers, students, and businesses in our neighborhoods. Trust can be that wavering emotion that we don't always have, even though we want to have it, right? By listening or watching today's episode, you'll learn more about why trust is fragile today and how listeners can apply strategies to build it, whether in their businesses, communities, or in their classrooms. Additionally, you'll gain 3 trust perspectives and practical takeaways. And lastly, you'll get to know us a little bit better.
Yeah, true. All right, so to start here, I really want to get into understanding why is trust important for a business and how does, trust really impact a business?
Yeah, certainly. That's a great question because the world of business has a mind of its own. And so when we think about the trust perspective, I want to give 2 perspectives in business as a consumer and then also as a business consultant. Before I dive into those 2 examples, first and foremost, I do want to start off with statistic because I'm a numbers nerd a little bit and I love data as well. So according to the 2025 Edelman's Trust Barometer report, 60% of people no longer trust businesses. They have a high grievance and believe that business institutions are not trustworthy and do not benefit their personal interests. Mm-hmm. I can definitely relate to this more now than ever. There's always brands launching every single day, some selling some of the same products, and you wonder which brand actually is putting you first. Are you actually a human being to them? Or are you just a number on a dashboard so they can grow their business revenue, right? So from the consumer perspective, it's quite interesting when you think about the layers of trust and what's going to take you from someone interested to not only purchasing from a brand, but trusting that brand to sustain a long-term relationship with that brand. So that being said, let's talk about what brands can do to lose trust. I want to give an example. I will start off this by saying that I love to shop. I love TikTok Shop. I wish TikTok Shop would block me because I love it. I love it. I am on there scrolling, shopping, ordering things, and I just got a really cool weighted vest I've been using the last 2 weeks. I am a fan of it. I would link the vest in the description of the video format, but no free advertising. Anyways, I went ahead and bought this beautiful dress I found. It was a beautiful black dress, very elegant, form-fitting, long, luxurious dress, and I thought it was just a steal. It was only $50, and so I wanted to get it for one of the events that we went to, and I went ahead and purchased it. Came in the mail in a little over 7 days. I got it. It was beautiful. Tried it on. It fit as expected, and all was good to go. So I have the dress. I go to the event. All is well, and then 30 days later, I'm charged again, and then 30 days later, I'm charged again. And I unfortunately didn't notice this until much later, a few transactions in, because I wasn't the type of person to really like log into my bank account and check, okay, what did I spend? What did I spend? What did I spend? I was not that type of person. So that being said, when I saw that I was making additional purchases and not receiving new dresses, I was a little taken aback. And I learned that I had accidentally signed up for a VIP program when it when it came to this brand. I guess they opted me into a VIP program, which was $50 a month. So the dress was $50, but then I paid $50 a month, and then I was kind of like locked into this program. I was not aware of this. Actually, that was my first time of even learning about something like that. I kind of like the strategy, but you have to know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that I was doing that, and so I reach out, I complain. They say, well, hey, you already bought the dress for this much money. So, the dress is actually $159, but, you got a discount. So you can either pay that or you could stay in the program for this amount of time. And I'm like, well, I'd rather just pay the $159, which I did, but it left a very sour taste in my mouth. Maybe I could have contested it. Maybe I could have reported it. I just didn't have the energy at the time, but some people do. Okay, brands, business owners, some people have that energy for you, and you don't want to mess your sticky situation. But nevertheless, as a consumer, I just never trusted that brand again. I blocked their account. So I can no longer see ads, and I left some feedback on Reddit about my experience, so people would not fall for that trap. That being said, when trust is lost, it really does hurt businesses because they lose potential customers and potential customers of value. Not to toot my own horn, but I love to shop. I just said at the beginning of this intro.
Yes, you
and
do.
I would have bought maybe another dress or two because I did like that dress. But because they went about locking me in as a long-term customer in such a manipulative way, I wasn't a fan. There you have it. So that's how the lack of trust can impact businesses and brands from a consumer stance. You're going to lose your customers. And this actually does work as a great segue to my experience as a strategic business consultant. So I have 8 years of experience helping businesses with their enterprise level customers. So these customers are paying up to $250,000 a year. My role was to ensure that those businesses saw the ROI in what they purchased in those solutions, and that they wanted to expand their business portfolio and business working relationship portfolio with the brands that I represented at that time, right? So that really does take a level of strategy, results-oriented strategy, and trust, because maybe there are recommendations that we would want to implement for them to receive those results, right?
Yep.
And so trust is at the mecca in the heart of the business perspective and the consumer perspective. Because without trust, you're building your business on sand. Your business is going to shake, it's going to waver, and it's not going to last very long. Trust creates that strong foundation for businesses of all sizes to grow and grow efficiently. We had a funny saying as client outcomes managers, we're really the glue of the organization. We're keeping what came in steady. We're helping what came in grow and flow and expand, right? And so there's that. And that's a little bit more as to why I feel trust is important in the business world. Without trust, you lose customers. Your business reputation plummets. People are leaving negative reviews. Without trust, you lose your respect as a business leader. And without trust, your business will not become profitable.
Okay, for sure. Well, thanks for sharing that. That all makes a lot of sense. Trust and transparency, even for me, is super important. So I definitely get it. And I mean, some things can even come across as a scam just because of a lack of transparency, and maybe it's not, so.
Yeah, have you had an experience like that? I'm curious about your experience as a consumer.
I mean, I've had a couple. I don't want to get sued on this podcast.
Oh, no, you're not going to get sued. You can speak about your experience, but maybe don't give away the brand name.
So I'll put it
Let's
like
be
this.
tactful.
For me, I like to look into what I eat a lot. And in my research, I found that a lot of companies put, negligible amounts of certain chemicals and byproducts in food. And for me, I get that there's laws that allow that, but I want to know everything that's in what I'm consuming. It's only negligible within the serving size. So if you're eating the entire thing,
at times, maybe you are over consuming something that could be potentially harmful. And that's just, the light version that I'll share on the podcast.
Okay, so it sounds like you had an experience consuming something that was not good for your overall health and wellness, and you weren't aware of what you were taking in by serving size?
I wasn't aware because legally, if it's below a certain amount, they don't have to list it on the packaging as an ingredient. But if you eat a large amount of that, you're not only getting a small amount of that ingredient, you're getting a large amount of that ingredient to a scale of, how much you're taking in. And I just think that's wrong for me.
So what do you think they could have done differently?
Put on the packaging, this is in here. Even if it's 0.0001%, I want to know.
Now, Regis, you're moving very cryptically, and I have to ask you, what is this? What was the chemical or the thing that they had?
So, there's a type of insect that's used to dye certain orange juices and different drinks, and they list the insect's scientific name. So it looks like a chemical, but actually it's the name of a bug. And they just squish these bugs up, and it's like a natural dye. It's way healthier than artificial dyes. But the point is, I at least want to know.
Dye? Bug juice dye.
I mean, it's just, it's basically a natural dye. But it's healthy, though. It's healthy, though. It's good for you. But
okay.
I want to know, though.
That you're
I want to know that I'm consuming.
That makes sense.
So I can decide if I want to or not. Even if it's healthier than Red 45 or whatever.
That's fair. That's very fair. All right, so let's go ahead and segue into the world of academia. This cannot be done by anyone more perfect to speak on the topic than Regis Peeples, the academic master yogi, was the guy from Star Wars, the Jedi, the academic Jedi. Let's go ahead and dive into this. So on this segment of the podcast, I'm going to go ahead and ask you a couple questions so we can dive into your experience as an educator and why trust is relative in this realm.
All right.
So I'm curious to know, how does trust impact your life in the education space?
So within academia, without trust, one, you don't have employees. Two, you don't have students enrolling in classes. Three, you're not going to be securing those grants or any of the government funding or federal funding because all of that takes trust. There's an expectation that you're upholding your end of the bargain and those contractual deals that allow for even the simplest systems to function within an academic space.
Yeah, I get you.
So from registration to FAFSA to HIPAA and, student health services to just trusting that your professors are confident, credentialed people who actually have the skills that the college is putting forth in advertising, whether that's the way that the college discusses their goal within the community it's placed in, or whether that's, diversity initiatives or transfer rates or all these sorts of different things. I mean, people are going to schools because of what they offer. And if they're not actually offering those things, then that's problematic. And that's when you end up having people transferring out at high rates or people just dropping out, or even faculty members in protest, resigning, finding new jobs, or literally protesting at the college itself or university. So
on that note, as a professor, a tenure track professor, I'm curious to know, what is the impact if students are to transfer out more frequently or at a higher level than last year or 2 years ago? Like, how does that impact the world of the college institutions that you may be working at, or just in general, keep it at a high level? What's the impact of that?
So if they're completing their degree programs, at the community college level and transferring out, that's great because that's the goal. You come here, do your time, get out, go to that 4-year college, or take that associates and go into the workforce. At a 4-year college level, if you have people transferring out earlier than they should and not completing those degree programs, and you're also, lowering that retention rate, it doesn't really help you justify certain funding initiatives. It doesn't help you keep your workers employed. We need students to register to get money to pay for people to teach courses.
Got it.
And the more students we have, the more classes we need to open, the more instructors we get to have, the more part-time people we can implement into the system. And it really does work in full circle.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And I want to take this or bring this to a smaller scale. You, as an educator in the classroom, what happens when trust is lost between yourself as a professor or any professor at high level and any student? How does that impact the classroom learning outcomes and learning environments?
Okay, so there's a couple different things that can happen in that regard. I would say one is your students or students won't sign up for your classes. You'll just be in the dead zone. It'll be empty. Or if trust is broken prior to other students being informed, you'll have the situation where no one comes to class anymore.
Got it.
You'll come to class, there'll be one student sitting there. You're like, oh my gosh, there's 50 people registered. Where is everybody? Well, they've lost that trust. And it's possible that they might even drop your course and start adding other courses with other professors who other students might recommend that they maybe feel are more qualified, or just have a better classroom culture that fosters a different environment where there is trust.
That makes sense as far as like attendance and like enrollment rates. But I want to dive into the world of just learning outcomes now. So you talked about the experience from a professor to student approach and just how that can orchestrate different environments of participation in classrooms and enrollments. But what about the learning outcomes in itself? Because this could span from education, academia, and in so many different worlds as well.
Well, students that trust their professor are learning. They want to be there. They want to get an A. They want to impress that professor that they trust. They build a relational situation where there's so much trust that it shifts and turns into a form of friendship, within that power structure, because a classroom is a power structure. And I remember the first time I got evaluated as a professor, the person evaluating me came in, and at the end of class, all my students surrounded the desk. There were like 15 students. I couldn't even leave to get to my next class. And they said, hey, your students must really trust you. This is a good sign. They don't want to leave. Class is over and they want to just sit here and hang out with you. They want to ask you questions. They want to know more about your personal life. They want to know what you're doing when you leave the job.
Yeah.
And with that interest and that relational situation, especially if you're using relational teaching strategies where, you connect with students based on their own individual interests, that level of trust is scientifically proven to increase GPAs, to increase attendance, to increase the overall flow of the classroom, but also it fosters an environment where there's more communal learning, where your classroom now becomes a village where maybe if 10 students miss class, there's 20 other students with notes and texting them and saying, hey, we don't want to let this professor down. Make sure you do this. This is what you missed. And it actually makes your job a lot easier, because an engaged student who is willingly participating and active is almost like having a bunch of TAs in your classroom.
Oh, yeah. I love that. It just seems like there's such a good emphasis on the relational component behind trust as a pillar. Like without trust, that relationship is rocky. And when the relationship is rocky, students don't show up. Students don't retain information. Students don't want to learn. They don't have that desire to learn, right? And so trust is important, whether it's in business or in education. And on that note, I want to share a little bit about what I learned very early in my career. So as a strategic client outcomes manager, you're on calls all day. We're talking all day. Well, for most of the day when we're not pulling reports and creating presentations, blah, 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 right? So what I used to do a bad job at, admittedly, very early in my career, was be what you call shoot the shots, or not like that type of shot, but just, you know what I'm trying to say, the PG version, shoot the shots. And so just, spending the first few minutes of the call, catching up, learning a little bit more about who's on the other side of that screen, because since COVID, right? Like COVID, we're all behind screens at one point in the digital world. What do they do over the weekend? How many kids do they have? What are their kids doing? What events do they attend? What are their interests, right? And although I do feel like I had that skill outside of that workplace, and I had that skill outside of the workplace, it took some time for me to integrate that personable piece of who I was in the working environment, because I looked at work as work. Okay, I'm here to present. I'm here to do the presentation. They just want to know what's going on and we move forward. When you have back-to-back calls, you just kind of, or at least me, I'm on go, I'm on go, I'm on go. And so I had a manager that told me like, hey, you're really good at the presentations, the data, telling the story, and all that different type of stuff. But what's missing is that interpersonal piece, right? And so I had to work on that myself. Like, hey, these first few minutes to 5 minutes, I want to learn something new about this customer every single time. And that really did facilitate more trust in our relationship, which essentially helped that customer adopt the best practices that I was recommending, and then boost their return on their investment and their business outcomes. So, no, it's really cool to see.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
All right, Regis. So let's go ahead and move into the last pillar of today's podcast, trust and community. Okay.
All right.
So, Professor Peeples, I'd love to learn a little bit more about what you do outside of the classroom, outside of Peoples and Co. What are you doing in the community, and how does that help establish trust within your community?
So outside of the classroom, I'm a part of a few different groups. One is MOCAN, Men of Color Action Network. And basically we get a mentee of color, young man, and we talk to them, we mentor them, we help keep them motivated to stay in school. We hang out, we play basketball, talk about the future, make study plans, talk about possible career choices, and also introduce them to other professionals within, the network of color, right? Here's people who look like you, who are doing really amazing things. So when you look at yourself and you think about representation, realize that you are someone who is deserving of an amazing future, and you're not limited just because as a person of color, some people may look at you as, something other than what you are, which is a human who is well equipped with a lot of different skills and just as competent as every other person that exists.
And how does that collaboration and that advocacy and mentorship influence the lives of mentees?
It just shows them that what they believe in and what they're striving for is not what we call a hoop dream, right? Where it's like, oh, that's 1 in a million. You're not really that likely to go to the NBA. But if you want to be a scientist or a lawyer or whatever these things are, you can be. And on top of that, I'm going to introduce you to some people who are doing it so that it becomes less fictional and more realistic, no matter what neighborhood you're from or what your financial situation is or what your background is in your family life and whatever struggles you have. That doesn't mean you can't make it to that pillar. And that's really, it's just the goal is to provide that visibility that's not always present.
I love that, because it's not about like how you started off or what you did or didn't have, right? It's about what you're going to do with the skills that you've learned, what skills you're learning, and honestly, who crosses your path throughout your lifetime. Your network is so important when it comes to development. I love that. I love what you guys are doing when it comes to mentoring these students and advocating for their relationships in the community, expanding those relationships. If someone wants to be a doctor, how can we find them someone that is also a doctor that maybe had those similar struggles that they had, so they can see people that look like them in these different spaces and in that inspiration. Because I'll say it for me, when I'm in spaces where I don't feel like there are people that understand what it was like or what it's like to be in my shoes, I maybe don't pay as much attention to the lesson in that interaction, right? Or what I could take away. And it's something I'm still working on. But I love what you said. Thank you for sharing. That's inspirational. But what else are you doing outside of the MOCAN?
So I also do a lot of poetry readings and political and social activist work within poetics. Recently with one of my colleagues, Youssef, or Dr. Youssef Douce, excuse me, I have to start the doctor on it. We've been doing something called the People's Mic, no relation to my name, but it's the People's Mic as in for the people. And it's a moving reading that happens, twice a month for the most part. And it travels through different parts of LA. And we're just speaking to different communities,
in different areas, spreading social messages and political activism through poetry and melodic rhythms. And it's just such a great thing. And there's so much love and history and community and food, and there's live music and instruments and just amazing poets telling stories and passing information both through their work and through the stories they tell prior to sharing their work. And it's just really a great educational resource, and also a space for people who maybe want to share their own work for the first time. They can come out, sign up for the open mic, and have an audience that's really going to be there to support them. And it's not about you're an expert or you've been doing this your whole life. It's about you're a person, you're a part of this conversation, you're a part of this community, you have a voice. Let's all share our voices together, and just keep ourselves going, and remind other people that there might be some things you know about, there might be some things you don't know about. Let's all learn about each other more and more so that we can work towards those solutions to some of those problems.
I love that. What I really hear you saying is in the community, trust is equally as important in other realms, like the business realm, the education realm, because the community and your relationships shape where you end up in life, and what you know, what skills you adopt, your sense of belonging, your sense of acceptance, and that trust in others. And as you foster that trust in others and you build trust in other people, you essentially you grow, right? And that's what we're all about at Peoples and Co., our growth and marketing agency. We want to help businesses, individuals, and teams grow and reach new heights. And we want to make sure that you believe in the power of your vision and execution. That being said, we want to go ahead and close off today's podcast. Thank you all so much for listening or watching today. We appreciate you spending your time today with us, but we cannot leave and drop off from today's podcast without 3 principal key takeaways when it comes to establishing your brand and yourself as a trust leader in the space. Number 1, establish yourself as a thought leader. If you're a Pilates instructor, for example, and you're growing your business, you want to make sure that folks know that you are the expert in your craft. Whatever you're selling, how do you ensure that those that are looking to buy that very thing trust you as a thought leader? Well, you have to make sure that you're putting yourself out there and you're sharing best practices when it comes to your relative craft. If you want to have a strategy when it comes to your brand that's visible to your potential consumers, how are they consuming your media? What are they learning when they engage with your brand? How do they remember you? Do they trust that you know what you're doing? Number 2, you want to be ethical and unbiased in your marketing practices. And lastly, you want to put yourself out there. Optimize the use of your digital platforms. So here at Peoples & Co., we empower brands to do just that. Build a strong online presence, attract and retain your ideal customers, and ensure that you establish yourself as a thought leader in the digital space. So those are just a few best practices that we share, but if you're interested in learning more, you can check out our latest blog post on peoplesandco.com.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate the love and support. This is Regis signing out.
This is Keara signing out.
Peace out.
Thanks for listening.